Education has produced a vast population able to read but unable to distinguish what is worth reading. Hello Shishas, welcome to lecture 2 cell biology. We're going to look at this chapter. Today we're going to learn about the cell shapes, the cell size and totipotency. What is cell shape? The cells are very unique structures in the living organisms. They show a lot of shapes. I can compare. You can see almost all geometrical shapes of cells. You can see isodiametric. You can see the triangular shapes. So all shapes almost resemble in the various living organisms, and they serve various body functions. So based on function, the cell shape is going to appear. And even there are few cells that are shapeless, and even they do perform certain functions. Let's say the amoeba inside the humans is WBC cells. There is a particular type of WBC cell called macrophages. The macrophage is like an amoeba. As soon as if there is any pathogen entered, it's going to take it, it's going to engulf it like an amoeba. So that's why it is called as an amoeboid cell. Next is the cell size. The cell size is also one of the diverse factor. You can see the units that we have learned in the previous lecture. The picometer or the angstroms are the smallest units. So these units are used to define the specific range of cell, and we believe that the ostrich egg is one of the biggest one, and the smallest ones are PPLO. So PPLO or viruses also one of the smallest structures we can say. The PPLO is a type of bacteria, so it can be expanded as pleuropneumonia like organisms, and viruses more smaller than them, and they have but still we won't consider the virus as best example for cell because it doesn't have the three major properties that every living cell should supposed to have. So PPLOs is the smallest cell size, you can say. And next is about the totipotency. What is meant by totipotency? We knew this small thing always. Whenever you find any plant that you like, you can easily grow it in your garden. The reason is the plant is able to make its own parts. Whenever you separate it from its mother portion, it can be able to make its own leaf, flower, everything. So that's what called as the totipotency biologically. So the ability for the cell to form entire organism. So first time it was derived by or proposed by a scientist called Land, and it was proved by a scientist called FC Steward in carrot cells. The similar property may not be completely seen in the animals, but still the similar capacity is called as the pluripotency. The pluripotency is producing partial amount of organs. Let's say the pluripotency examples are the liver. So the liver can be able to regenerate itself even if they have 5% of the 5% of cells remaining. Okay, and then now we look at the totipotency in plants. When FC Steward tried to propose the totipotency, the proving the totipotency, it has given a lot of avenues to develop something called plant tissue culture. So the plant tissue culture is used nowadays to produce a lot of healthy plants. So similar experiment is done a long back. So that's why you can see most of the plants can be preserved safely. The reason is if you have a small portion of the plant like root, stem, leaf, it gives out entire portion of the plant. And biologically we are preserving a lot of plant samples. That means we are quite confident that we can grow them at any time we want. Okay, next animal cells. So the similar property is used. There are few exceptions. The organisms like the planaria. So we have an organism called planaria, which is an exceptional organism. It can be able to grow its its cut down parts. Whenever you say it has head, body, then tail. If all these three portions are cut down, so due to some reason, so the head region, whenever it's been cut down, the other regions can be easily grown. Okay, like this, all three portions can be able to regenerate into complete organisms. Except this, all the other animals cannot be able to produce its complete structures. Alright, so next we look at the cell capability called cell differentiation. Cell differentiation is the capacity of the cell to get differentiated, or to just produce various forms. The cell differentiation is classified into three major types. So first is called as undifferentiation. Sorry, there is a mistake. So the undifferentiation, that means the cells that do not have any shape, structure and function. So it doesn't have any shape, structure and function, and the only function they have is they can be able to divide. So they can be able to divide into anything. So example is zygote, embryo. All of these are a few examples for the undifferentiated cells. Alright, these properties are important. Whenever you say undifferentiated, it doesn't have proper shape, proper structure and then proper function. And when you say something is differentiated or differentiated cells, differentiation, then you can say that the cells that are acquired the specific size, specific shape and function. Then you can say the structure as well. Example is the muscle cell. Okay, and most of your body cells are differentiated from the undifferentiated cells. And thirdly, we have the dedifferentiation cells. So the dedifferentiation refers to whenever there was some accidental breakdown or due to some reason, if there are a few things happen. Let's say there is a small injury on your body, so obviously some of the cells located on your skin or the region of wound, they should supposed to make or to replace the dead cells into the new ones. So this is an example of the dedifferentiation. That means whenever few cells died in a particular region, so there you can see the differentiated cells, right? So differentiated, so let's say these got damaged or they died, so these things are going to be formed the undifferentiated cell. So these undifferentiated cells are going to be forming the differentiated cells again. Getting this? So differentiated cells, they have specific size, shape, function, and when they die or accidentally if they want to reproduce for some reason, they undergo dedifferentiation and then they form the undifferentiated cells. So this way it is one of the cyclic path, we can say. The undifferentiated will become differentiated and then some of the differentiated cells will again form the undifferentiated cells. I think this is clear for you. I used to tell this small illustration. So whenever you consider there is a plant, so when this plant is growing up to some portion from the ground, so if there is accidentally, if there is a cow passing by, quite hungry cow, so it want to taste this still tiny plant and it just eats away. So let's say the cow has come and it has eaten away this entire portion. So when this happens, when that happens, you can see the plant is left with some portion of stem. So this thing is going to give rise to the leaf again. So the leaves will slowly develop and then it's going to become the complete plant gradually. Right, so that means the first time when the cow has eaten the plant completely, it has lost all its differentiated cells, and here at this region what happens is it's going to produce the undifferentiated cell. So these undifferentiated cells are gradually going to form the specific cells that eventually differentiate into the leaves and then the stem, and in the future when you can see the flowers, fruits, everything. Alright, so first time the undifferentiated cells are going to form differentiated cells, and these differentiated cells are going to give rise to the undifferentiated cells again at specific times. But remember, all these cells cannot be able to form the undifferentiated cells. Alright, so it is one of the important aspects you have to remember. There are few cells which can only give rise to the undifferentiated cell. For example, the human RBC is an example which cannot form the undifferentiated cell. Alright, so let's look at one more property of cell. You know, the cell functioning based on the region, the size of the cell always prefer the smaller surface area. So if there is smaller surface area, the cells can be easily take the substances in and out. Alright, so whenever there is more surface area, there won't be much efficiency for work of cell. So that's why cells prefer smaller size in order to acquire the smaller size or smaller surface area. So what they're going to do is they're going to divide. So whenever cell decides to divide, the major reason for cell division is it has more surface area, so which is not allowing for the absorption of nutrients. Alright, let's look at the simplest thing, you know, that's the cell number. You know, cells, there are many number of cells in organisms, but we have single cellular organisms or unicellular organisms like amoeba, so which can be able to maintain its life with only one cell. So such a selfish organism, it has only one cell to survive, and still one cell has a lot of pressure to work everything. Okay, whereas if you look at the other organisms, they have many cells. That's why we call multicellular. And what these multicellular do is they're going to distribute the work among them, and they evolve into tissues. Like a group of cells, they form tissues, and the group of tissues are going to form the organ to organism. So these are the cell numbers actually matter, and sometimes you may get few questions. You know, they ask you like this: the cell size of elephant is big, that's why it is big. But it's not. Whenever you say something is big, it should supposed to have more number of cell. Alright, there is no specific proof that the increase in size of cell will form the larger organism, but there are some evidence that the more number of cells are responsible to form bigger organisms, be it giraffe or the elephant, blue whale. So all these organisms have more number of cells, that's why they are bigger enough. Alright, so let us look at the types of cells. So far we learned about the few properties, and based on a lot of differentiations, we have classified the types of cells. So this specific division is entirely based on the evolution of cell. So based on the evolution, or when they evolved, so we have classified them into two major groups. First one is called as the prokaryotic. So prokaryotic refers to the primitive first. Okay, the nucleus not covered with membrane, so that is a important differentiation, and they have fewer cell organelles. Example is blue bacteria and blue-green algae. Next we have the eukaryotic cells. The U refers to true, and here the nucleus is covered with a membrane, and they have many cell organelles. Example, plant and animal cells. So let's say whenever you call something as prokaryotic, so you can see it will have a lot of cilia around. Example, whenever you can see a lot of bacteria, and all the nuclear membrane or nucleic the genetic material will be dispersed like noodles. That's why we can call this one as nucleoid. So we don't have the name for this, so they will be called as the nucleoids, and they have only mesosomes which will function like mitochondria. And then you can see the body is covered with a lot of cilia, and you can see the locomotor structure called flagellae. So that's what the prokaryotic cell stands for. And whenever you try to represent the eukaryotic cell, the eukaryotic cell has very clear different type of the cell, and its nucleus is covered with nuclear membrane. So you don't see the nuclear membrane is occupying the cytoplasm. It is specifically enclosed. So that's why it is called as true type nucleus. That's why it is called as eukaryotic, a true type of cell. And you can see this type of cell in plants and animals. And we have a lot of differences in these two plants and these two cells. So one is the plant cell and animal cell. The plant cell, by looking at it immediately, you can identify with its central vacuole and the chloroplast, which is greenish color, and then thick cell wall. And then the animal cell has centralized nucleus with or without vacuole, and it lacks cell wall as well. Alright, so even we have a lot of differences of plant and animal cell in terms of the cell organelles, in terms of the cell division, and then how they divide. Even in the cell division as well, the structures they form in various forms are evident of their evolution. So we're going to learn all of them soon. So I'm giving you a small introduction here. So that's it from this lecture. So see you next time with the next lecture.